Hi guys, welcome back. This will be part 2 of the Windows Server 2012 series. So this part of the video, we will show you how to set up the server. Um, Depending on how much background knowledge you have on networking and how servers actually work, how computers work, everything in the universe, or in the computer universe at least, would be kind of cool if we all had individual IPs. Everything needs an IP. An Internet Protocol address, or IP, is the address that everything in the world uses to find each other. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of IPs in the world. Um, what they are is the domain name is, so if you type in google.com, okay, this is essentially what your browser is actually doing. So if I type in pinggoogle.com, it converts the domain name into the IP address that it's pointing towards. So it's 74.125.228.3. If I copy that, come over to Safari, paste that in, look, it shows up as Google. And the same thing is if I go to google.com, it does the same thing. So what you're doing is you're contacting a server. That server has that set IP address. So if you're using your server, obviously you need a way to communicate with it. And that's where IPs come into play. Now, there are two different kinds of IPs. There's a dynamic IP address as well as a static IP address. Dynamic IP addresses are usually what clients use while connecting to a network and just simply using the internet. So if you will go on to, say, a public network, like here on my campus, they have a DHCP server. Everywhere has a DHCP server, including your internet service provider. But what that does is it hands out IP addresses to where they're needed. So when you connect, your computer says, hey, I need an IP address so I can receive the files, receive the website information, as well as send it back out. And the DHCP server says, okay, let's see, I have 200 IPs that are free. Here you go, have this one. And that is your IP address for that session. So once you disconnect, the IP goes back into the pool, and if somebody else connects back on, they then get that IP. So it's pretty cool how that stuff works, if you didn't know before. So what you'll do is you'll go to the local server, all right, and there's a couple things that we should just change first while we're at it. You'll change your computer name. So we'll put this to test_server. And we will then need to restart the computer in order to save those changes. But that is what we're doing now. You will then want to enable remote desktop. So if you actually have a server, you're not going to have the server sitting in the room with a monitor and keyboard connected to all of them all the time. Remember, if you are using this in a production environment, you have like 100 plus servers in a normal server farm. So you can't have screens hooked up to each one. That's where remote desktop really comes into play. You can type in that IP address, log in using your Windows credentials, and then boom, it streams your screen. What we're looking at right now locally, it'll stream it across the internet, which is really cool. All right. Next thing we want to do for later, which trust me, it'll help for later. Turn off the Internet Explorer Enhanced Security. Obviously, with a server running sensitive data, it really needs to be secure. So Windows did a really good job of securing it. The only downfall is it is a pain in the ass to do anything when that is turned on. You can't download anything. It asks you if you want to trust this website every single time you click on a page. It just gets old real fast. Probably the first time it asked me, it got old. So then we want to change the time zone. This will be important as well. Took me a little time to realize why something wasn't working, and it was because the time was not set correctly. Go figure. All right. So, really the only thing you'll need on this page is what is up here in this box, the properties. As you can see, we are running Windows 2012 Data Center. It is on VMware. It'll obviously say your computer name, whatever that may be, say Dell, blah, 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 blah. We have an Intel Core i5, 2.6 gigahertz, 2 gigs of RAM, and 60 gigs of disk space. And obviously this will depend on what you have VMware set up to have or what your actual physical machine is. All right. And then you also want to configure your Windows updates as well. Obviously, you'll get security updates, functionality updates, everything else. So this is where the important thing comes in, the IP stuff that I've been saying. All right, so we'll go down here to the PowerShell or the command prompt if you prefer to use that. Essentially, they're both the same thing. Obviously, the PowerShell will have more server-based command line. So in Windows, the command is ipconfig, and then you'll want to do /all. Okay? /all will give you more information about what you're doing right now. Okay? So right here, your IPv4 address. That is what you want. IPv4 is IP version 4. IPv6 has just been starting to come out. It's not real widely used in the networking world quite yet because it's still kind of up in the air of how to configure everything. And then if you have older equipment, obviously it's not supported. So it'll be a little bit until it actually comes out. Now, what you have it set up automatically is to do a dynamic IP address exchange. So obtain an IP address automatically. That's what it's doing. It's saying, hey, I need an IP, and it's like, okay, here you go. Then you disconnect, and it says, hey, I'm back again. I need another IP. Then it'll give you a different one. I mean, you could get the same one, but most of the time, it'll be different each time. So we want to use the following IP addresses. So we'll move this over a little bit if I can. No, I can't. Move this over a little bit. All right, and we will type in that IP address that it's currently using. Now you can ask your administrator if what IPs are free, if you're allowed to use them. And then you'll find your subnet mask, which is right here. So it's 255.255.255. And your default gateway, which is all over here. Let me save this. Okay, and it won't let me. Just have to do it from memory. So 172.16.48.2. And like I said, this will be different for each and every network. It's all different IPs. Since this is locally on VMware, it has a 172.16 address. If I actually had this deployed on my campus's network, it would be 10.something.something.something. It would start off as a 10, depending on where it is in the network, which is all other stuff that we can get into possibly in another series. And you will need your DNS servers. So 16.2. And then on most commercial networks, you'll also have an alternate DNS server for redundancy purposes. I don't know what that means. I'll type that in. And it's going to be giving me troubles. Alright, so what we'll try and do, we'll just change this to 1. Okay, there it took it for some reason. Alright, and it is now identifying with the network that it is given. Unidentified. So let's see if we can get back on the internet. We do not want to use this because it's stupid. Let's go to Google. As you can see, we do not. It says it has a limited connection, which this might just be in the virtual machine. Okay, we'll see if this fixes it. Alright, well, regardless of if it would actually work, which, like I said, as always, it's always different. This is obviously a little bit different. So if I actually had a machine hooked up and currently configured, it would be different. So let me try and use the Thunderbolt. Alright, what I will do for the sake of this demonstration is I will go back to having the automatic IPs, but if you're on a home network, you should be good to go. Yeah, you should be good to go. That's just because it's sharing the internet from my Mac, so it was just configured a little bit differently, but if it was a straight machine, straight server, it should work with that IP. So now we obviously have internet connection here. If I go back to the server manager, not server manager, IP config, and that's the IP. So if I go over here, and I'll open up remote desktop connection. Okay, this is actually one of the servers that I do have. That is one of their IP addresses. And once again, it does not like that either on the network. So you will go to remote desktop connection. You'll type in that IP. It'll then show up with the screen like this. And it'll just simply ask you to log in. And when you log in, it'll look exactly like this. and you can do that on any machine. So if you're on another Mac, you can use that. The only difference between the VM and remote desktop is that you are actually just simply streaming the screen across the internet, across your network, and all the processes are still going on the server. While a VM is you're seeing the screen as well, but all the processes are being done on your local machine. That's the only difference. So if it worked and you got it, perfect. That's great. It's just using this as on a commercial network is a little bit hard, and you need communication with your network administrators, which is always a fun thing. All right, so that is how you configure a local IP address. You just go click on the Ethernet. You can go through the control panel as well. You will do properties and click properties on the IPv4. After that, you should be good to go. You are on the internet. You can be seen local on your home network. You've got a good server. Now, the next video, we'll be going into more detail on how to add profiles, add features to the server. I won't be going through the Windows basics like adding users, changing their account type. That's basic Windows stuff. And it's all the same on the server as well. I'll be going through each features that you can add on to the server, what they do, why Windows Server is so popular in the IT world, so stuff like that. And then we'll get into the individual and how to set up each single one. So I hope you guys come back, and that's all I have for you. Thank you.